Good morning, everyone. My name is Panos Kakonitis. I am from the Department of Environment under the Ministry of Agriculture, Rural Development and Environment of Cyprus. I'm here as a climate expert, and I'm going to speak about the policy uptake in climate change adaptation related to a project called Site Adapt. And I'm going to do it on behalf of my colleagues that have done all the work. Unfortunately, at that time, I wasn't at the ministry. First, let me thank the whole Life Creation team for inviting us, and congratulations for the excellent organization of the workshop and the seminar today. Special thanks to Nicolina, Ivica, Tonga for helping us coming here and inviting us. Okay, let me talk about Site Adapt. Site Adapt was a project done in 2011 till 2014. It covered the whole area of Cyprus, and it basically had three coordinator beneficiaries. Was the Department of Environment. The associate beneficiaries were the National Technical University of Athens and the National Observatory of Athens. The main aim of the project was to strengthen and increase Cyprus' adaptive capacity for climate change impacts through the development of a national adaptation strategy. The project was helping on the realization of different objectives of the European Climate Change Program, and also for various specific EU directives, such as the Water Framework Directive. What was quite crucial and started from the initial concept of the project was to bring on board all the different departments and make them agree on what was going to be submitted as a final national adaptation strategy. The problem here wasn't it was easy for us, the fact that it was something that the department needed and it was made from us to us. So the difficult part was to make all different departments agree on what was going to be submitted in the Ministerial Council for approval. The Ministerial Council is the official public body in Cyprus in charge of approving a national adaptation strategy. One of the main things was the creation of the management system. We formed 4 different kind of groups, committees. The management committee was basically the leaders of the project leader of every beneficiary. The coordination group was basically the action leaders, and the coordination steering committees and the thematic steering subcommittees, which basically were representative for the 11 Cypriot policy areas that are considered to be affected by climate change. The steering committees were trying to promote active stakeholder involvement that resulted to the wider dissemination of the project, capacity building, and also in the successful implementation of the project. The synthesis of the committees were quite representative because we tried to bring on board different departments and services of the government, and also academic institutions, research centers, and environmental NGOs. Here is just a sample of some of the thematic groups that were created. For example, for the water resources thematic, we have a person from the Water Development Department, which is a public body in charge of water resources. And we also have a person from Cyprus University of Technology, which is coming from the sector of academia. The whole management system was quite efficient and effective because we achieved optimum cooperation between the partners and the steering committee, and it resulted as a successful completion of the project objectives. Let me quickly go through the whole concept that it was described also in the National Action Plan. Basically, initially, there was an assessing of the current climate change risk and socioeconomic conditions, and a current impact vulnerability assessment, and the same happened for the future projection of that. Then we we assessed the adaptive capacity of the island. Then we formulated an adaptation plan, which then we're passing then to the phase of implementation, monitoring, and after the monitoring, we put into place evaluation, re-evaluation, and corrective actions. Through the whole procedure, it's quite crucial, and it was one of the things that the Ministerial Council wanted to see. It was that we have the continuous involvement of stakeholders, because we wanted to take something in the Council that will be already supported from everybody. So all these things were represented in the different actions of the project, and also some other actions that were quite significant in making the plan accepted by everybody. It was the dissemination activities and also the networking with the other projects that we used to gain experiences and examples of, from other live projects. Let me quickly say a couple of actions that were quite significant on for the successful completion of the project. We have action 4, which basically was a development of a multi-criteria analysis tool that was used for the selection of the adaptation options that were suggested for implementation in the island of Cyprus. Then we have the action 4, was basically the elaboration of the national adaptation plan. So we used the output from the multi-criteria analysis, and we prepare a first draft of the adaptation plan. The stakeholders then came on to evaluate what was suggested as option for adaptation, and on the basis of the contribution to climate change, the potential barriers that those measures had for the implementation, the cost effectiveness, and the viability. Then there was a selection of the measures to put into the national action plan, and there was a distinction between urgent, moderate urgent, less urgent, depending the policy. Then we have the development of the first official draft of the adaptation plan that we have put into public consultation for a period of 2 months. After the end of the consultation, we formulate the final form of the National Action Plan that went into the Ministerial Council for approval. Before that, that happened back in 2014 with the end of the project, and at that time there was another need of the production of another report called Climate Change Risk Assessment Report, which was a thing that we needed to do as a department, and it was also an obligatory thing to do under another EU-funded project, the Cohesion Fund. And it was basically a report focusing on the potential impacts and how climate risk going to manifest themselves in a case of absence of any actions. And that was considered to be another report that will support the National Action Plan, where it was going to go to the Ministerial Council for approval. So we finished that report back in 2016, and then we submitted both of those studies in the Ministerial Council, and it was approved in May 2017. It basically consisted of 250 adaptation measures covering 11 policy areas that range from agriculture, public health, tourism, energy. So let me just very quickly mention a couple of the conclusions that the 2 studies had. It was basically, yes, Cyprus is already affected by climate change. 2 of the main things that you can observe in the island is the minimization of the precipitation and the increase of the mean temperature, and the extreme climatic phenomena, especially droughts. This is the measure for the water resources sector, and you can see that some of them are considered more urgent, some of them less urgent, and depending the policies, and ranging from the maintenance and repair of the water delivery system related to infrastructure to enhancing the efficient use of water in buildings and agriculture. So, closing, what are the future steps? That is basically what is happening now after the adoption of the adaptation plan. And now we are entering the implementation phase, And we are running at the moment some bilateral meetings with the different thematic groups that was created back then in order to make sure that what was suggested back in 2014 is still valid and nothing changed, or if there is something that needs to be improved as a measure, we improve it. And then we also foreseen some monitoring team that will happen in the future, will evaluate periodically the level of impact, the adaptive capacity of Cyprus, and the adaptation strategy will be examined periodically for revision depending the findings of the monitoring. And closing, I would like to say that at the moment we are submitting an integrated project related with this particular project. We successfully completed the first stage, which was the concept note, and we are writing right now the full proposal, and we are optimistic that we will be successful and it will be an excellent example for life, because we started something using funding from a traditional project, and we will implement it and make it reality through the integration project. Thank you very much.
Hvala. Imate li možda pitanja? Tonka ima jedno pitanje.
Climate change is a really complicated issue. You have a lot of sectors involved in it. You probably said it at the beginning, but I didn't catch it. Did you have any partners, other ministries?
Yes, we brought on board all different kind of partners from different ministries and different departments, just to make sure that what was suggested under, for example, water, it was according with what the Water Development Department of Cyprus wanted to put forward as a measure, because it was something, for example, in the case of water, it was something that also the Water Framework Directive wanted to implement, and it was one of their objectives. So this was one of the main things that the project done, was to bring on board people from different areas, and not only public bodies, but also NGOs and academia and research institutes, to make sure that all the opinions came on board. So when the final product was going to the ministerial department, none of the ministers there would have any objection about voting the National Action Plan.
How long did it take to write the project proposal, and how long did you had to communicate with the other ministries about it?
The time, I don't know exactly how long it took. I wasn't right there at the moment, but it was something because the ministry wanted to do, and it already have it in mind that we need to do it. So, because also the national contact point is based also in the environmental department, there was the knowledge that we can use that, the funding tool, to help us create something using also partners from other areas, like the National Technical University of Athens. So the knowledge that we can use that was there. So it was easy in terms of taking the choice to use life as an option to do so. And but exactly the time, I don't know how long it took for the formation of the project.
Ako nemamo više pitanja, there are no questions. Thank you.